We now know that Delight is never going to watch Star Wars. Actually, yes, you are. I'm going to tape your eyes open, and I'm going to force feed you Star Wars.
Jim, help me here.
When I was in Iraq, my chaplain assistant was tasked out to the ODA guys that did some interrogation. I learned a lot of cool techniques.
Clark, are you listening to this?
Clark's busy talking to Carrie. That's how this works. Miss Van, to answer your question, Steph has slept all day, and Caroline's tummy is feeling a little bit better, but the night will tell. My mother-in-law's in town. Put her to work.
She brought that bar.
No, that's going to the school. But tomorrow, good news, she hops on her broom and flies back.
That's no way to talk about your wife.
No, I'm talking about my mother-in-law. That's a great way to start, isn't it? I have said nothing to her back I have never said to her face. Yeah. 1 Samuel chapter 26. 1 Samuel chapter 26. We're going to see here in 1 Samuel that it shares a unique similarity to another chapter. If you have been here for a while, it should, and some of these names should sound familiar, even as I butcher them with my attempt at English. Starting in verse 1, then the Ziphites came to Saul at Gibeah and said, "Is not David hiding himself in the hills of Hilkiah, which is in the east of Jeshim?" Or Jeshman, whatever. So Saul rose and went down to the wilderness of Ziph. You thought that was only in the Avengers, the land of Ziph. Anyhow, with 3,000 chosen men of Israel to seek David in the wilderness of Ziph. Does any of this sound familiar to any of y'all? Chapter 24. Delight, I know it's like watching a movie, right? And Saul encamped on the hill of Hachilayim, which is beside the road on the east of Jeshman. But David remained in the wilderness. When he saw that Saul had came after him in the wilderness, David sent out spies and learned that Saul indeed had come. Then David arose and came to the place where Saul had encamped, and David saw the place where Saul lay with Abner, the son of Ner, the commander of the army, and Saul was lying in the encampment while the army was encamped around him. So here's the picture. Again, the men of Ziph. We've seen these guys that come up and say, and they apparently have this beef with David that we don't know why. But anyhow, these men come up and they say, "Hey, Saul, dude, homie, David's like down there, like driving around all free and stuff. So come down." Now, if you look at 24, the men of Ziph come up and do the same thing. And what happens is a lot of more liberal scholars go, "Hey, what this is this is a repeat." It's like, you know how you've got that one record that has that skip in it that the song just keeps going, over, right? Like you don't have records tonight. Do you have a scratch in your record? Would you like scratches in your record? Does anyone have a record with a scratch in it? There we go. Everyone but Delight doesn't know this dilemma or this problem. Or CD with a scratch. You'll be going along and all of a sudden they go, and then move on. And so what they think is the writer here of 1 Samuel, basically, he was running low on material. And he says, you know what? This was a kind of a cool story. We'll just throw it in there. The problem is, while it has some similarities to 24, it has a lot of dissimilarities to 24. In chapter 24, when Saul comes out to kill David, what does David cut of Saul's? Not his ear. Thank you for playing, though. Keep swinging. Cuts his robe while Saul was doing what? Relieving himself. And this was a hoot last time we discussed it. We will not be discussing it this time because that's not what he's doing. He cuts his robe. Let's see what happens. Now, the scene is pitched. Saul is in the camp. And the way they would set this up is, guess where Saul would sleep? Right in the middle. And they mention Abner. Abner is Saul's general / bodyguard. So Saul is in the middle of the camp, and we're going to see this story unfold. Then David said to Elimelech the Hittite, not Elimelech the high priest, Elimelech the Hittite, not Elimelech the high priest, and to Joab's brother Abishai, the son of Zeruiah, who will go down with me to the camp of Saul? And Abishai said, I will go down with you. So David and Abishai went to the army by night, and there Saul lay sleeping within the encampment with his spear stuck in the ground at his head, conveniently giving David a weapon. And Abner and the army around him. Then Abishai said to David, God has given your enemy into your hand this day. Does this phrase sound familiar? This comes from 24. God's given your enemy into your hand. Man, if you ever wanted a setup, this is it. You could have not walked into the camp armed. I wouldn't have done that because you've got 3,000 armed men. You wake one of them up, it's a fight, and off to the races you go. Although that's not going to happen because we'll see here in a minute the reason why. But you could have walked in there. It's like they're giving you the gun and loading it so you can shoot the man. Right? And so Abishai says, the Lord has given your enemy into your hand this day. Now, please let me pin him to the earth with one stroke with the spear. I won't strike him twice. Now, why does he offer to kill him and not let David kill him? Anybody remember? That's one. What's another reason why? Going back to 24, why does David say why does David not kill Saul in 24 when he had a chance? I mean, Saul is if the worst way to die possibly for a guy is to be killed while he's in doing the number 2. He's anointed by God. And so he will not touch God's anointed. But Abishai doesn't have a problem doing it. You got a problem doing it? That's fine. How many of you ever seen the movie Count of Monte Cristo? Okay. His companion, the Count of Monte Cristo's companion goes, hey, this is a great plan. I go up to Paris, bang, 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 bang. I kill the people that put you in prison. How is this not a good plan? You haven't seen that movie, Delight? Just stay watching the wheel. It's a safe show. I'm going to take a drink. It's water. I only drink H2O. It comes out of a bottle. I haven't graduated to effervescing yet. So Abishai says, hey, look, I know you have qualms about killing Saul. I have no qualms about killing Saul. Let me take the spear, and notice there's a bit of braggartness to this, isn't there? I will only need how many strikes? Just one. I'm going to pin this dude so far to the ground, his grandkids are going to get speared to the ground. Right? I'm going to hit you so hard your grandkids are going to be born dizzy. That's really what he's saying. I only need one. You just say the word. Matter of fact, you just go for a walk. Those of you in the Army, have you ever heard the phrase, this is NCO business, and that usually meant, hey, sir, go away while we torment this soldier so you have possible deniability that we beat this kid to death? They don't do that, though. No. I was at a basic training installation. They said, hey, sir, this is NCO business. Why don't you go over there and look at that tree? I went and looked at the tree. So anyhow, Abishai said, look, I only need one blow. Your problems are solved. And here's the thing. God has set you up. Now, this is the same statement that he says in 24. Not Abishai says this, but the assumption is he probably was one of the men saying this. God has set you up with a victory over your enemy. Here he is. They're all asleep. I can pin him to the ground. He's not going to make a sound. I'm going to kill him, and you're king. Pow! Look what God did for you. Neat. We'll even bow it if you'd like. What was David's response last time? No. Why? This is God's anointed man. But God put him here for you. And in both cases, we'll see here in the text, God's the one that made him sleep. God has set this up for you perfectly. How many of us have ever been in a situation where God has perfectly set something up for us? It looks like it's the right thing to do, but we know deep in our heart it is the wrong thing to do. It's perfect. Couldn't get any more perfect. This is ideal. What's David's response again? Well, let's take a look at it. But David said to Abishai, do not destroy him. For who can put out his hand against the Lord's anointed and be guiltless? And David says, as the Lord lives, the Lord will strike him this day, or his day will come and die, and he will go down into battle and perish. David has an opportunity to rid himself of a man who is his biggest thorn in his side. A guy whose target acquisition radar is absolutely wrong. Couldn't kill him with 3 tries with the spear. Tries to spear Jonathan. Can't do that. Has tried to hunt this guy. Couldn't do that. Sent another guy out to kill him. Couldn't do that. Now he's come out with 3,000 men again, and he's asleep. And David's response is, you don't put your hand against the Lord's anointed. Now, here's the thing. How many times have we sought to take revenge on people instead of letting the Lord handle the situation? It's easy to do. Why? Because our pride gets involved. Think of it. If anyone has a legitimate right to pin Saul's head to the ground, it's David. Why does he have a legitimate right? He is the legitimate king of Israel. He is anointed by God to be the king. Saul has sought his life for all things unjust. There isn't a just charge that Saul has against David. Thirdly, I'm on 3. Thirdly, Saul killed 84 priests at Nob. These are the priests of God, not pagan priests. The Lord told Saul that he was going to take his kingdom from him and that his line would not have the kingship. If anyone has a right to take revenge for all these things, it's David. Oh, while Saul was living in his nice home, where's David living? In the caves in Ziph, on the run from Saul, because he's done nothing but be good to Saul. Because Saul has injured pride. And as anyone has a right to strike Saul dead, it's David. Ever been in a situation where you have the right to strike someone dead, or not dead, but you've got him. I've got him. And I'm going to get him. That's really what the movie The Count of Monte Cristo is about. He hunts these people and he doesn't kill them. He messes with them and manipulates them until all that they hold dear. And it's a line from the movie. It's not very accurate. It doesn't go along with Alexander Dumas's book, but hey, it's a good movie. It's a good watch. You ought to watch it. Popcorn is the best thing to do with a movie. And a soda. Just saying. He takes from them all that they hold dear because they took from him everything. Put him in a prison for 14 years. Man, have we ever been wronged and sought our own revenge? And be justified in it? And here's the thing. Have we ever said, man, the Lord has set this guy up for me to take out? A lot of times we seem to look at these texts and we go, man, look at what God has done. He's allowed me, or he's allowed my enemy to be stricken down. And yet, what does David say? I made that word up, stricken. No, it didn't. That's a word. Look what David says. I won't lay my hand upon the Lord's anointed. Why? Because God's going to kill him. God will either strike him with a disease or he will die in battle. I don't need to pursue him. I don't need to do anything to him. Remember last time we were here, we remember Nabal, whose name means fool. And David, remember, was insulted by Nabal. And David looked at all of his men, all 600 of them, and says, get your swords, boys, so we're going to go to town. It's going to shape up like an old Western with swords. And he goes out to kill Nabal, and Abigail stops him. And why? So he doesn't have blood on his hands, innocent blood on his hands. 10 days later, Nabal is dead. David allowed the Lord to seek revenge for him instead of David doing. Why? Well, when we do it, we don't do it for just reasons. When we seek revenge, we don't do it for just reasons. We do it for self-serving, selfish reasons, right? Even David. You saw last week when he went to, or not last, was it last week? It was the week before last. When he sought Nabal's life, was it because of a just reason or was it because of an insult? It was because of an insult. Do you not know who I am? Do you not know what I represent? How dare you insult me? I'll show you. Abishai is tempting David with another attempt to kill Saul and say, we'll show everyone who's in charge because God has set this up perfectly. This is great. And David looks and says, this isn't right. This isn't right because I don't have the right to stretch my hand out against the Lord's anointed. I don't have the right to do this. What we will do is this. I'll check out what he does here. As the Lord lives, the Lord will strike him on his day. His day will come to die, and he will go down in battle and perish. And that is true. That's exactly what happens. Lord forbid that I should put my hand out against the Lord's anointed. That's verse 11. So, verse 12, David took his spear and the jar of water from Saul's head, and they went away, and no man saw it, knew it, nor did anyone wake up, for they were all asleep, because whom did what? The Lord caused them to fall into a sleep. It's not the nap that you take where you fall asleep. Now, some people can fall into a sleep, and you could run a marching band with a train through their house. I'm not one of them in my relationship. I wake up at the sound of the neighbors shutting their car door. Steph can sleep through, she slept through an earthquake. A 4-pointer. Anyhow, I was wide awake, wondering why the bed was shaking. She, out. There are some people that can do that. There are others that can't. Typically among military men, usually when they're out on a patrol or out for battle, rarely do they go, you know what, y'all wake me up because I sleep through the night. But notice, David is able to walk into the midst of a camp of 3,000 men, have a conversation with this guy. Even whispering, he's having a conversation. Some of you would wake up as somebody's whispering near you, hopefully. Right? Steph, I would. I hear who's in the house? And it was in my head. Have a conversation, still a jug of water and a spear, and exit, and no one's awake. Why? Because it's God that's doing it. Abishai has got to be looking at David and said, look, these guys are out cold. Watch. I can poke this one with a spear. Watch this. Have you ever found a guy that sleeps really heavy and you get the blade of grass? This is a riot when you take kids camping. And you begin to tickle their face and they start going. I had one kid that started throwing haymakers. So guess what I did? Yeah, of course. It was great entertainment. I didn't have a TV. I'm sure that they were like, watch this. Hey, David, watch this. Let's reposition their beds. They'll never know, right? You ever had some? That's how asleep they were. They could have moved the whole camp. This is a perfect setup. But notice David doesn't do this. David takes his spear and his jug of water. And David went over to the other side of the mountain, stood far away on the top of a hill. I don't know why he did this, because he's got Saul's spear. And apparently it was defective because Saul let him take it anyhow. It's a joke. And he called to the army and to Abner. Now, one of the interesting things before we get into this is notice what David takes. In the first time, David cuts Saul's robe. The second time, he takes Saul's spear and his jug of water. And a lot of folks look at, especially amongst your Jewish commentators, they look at this with a lot more of symbology. The robe, they would say, represents Saul's royal reign because he is wearing his royal raiment. He takes Saul's spears, which is Saul's ability to conduct military action, his divine force, and the jug of water represents life. And so if you want to look at it that way, all the three things that he demonstrates to Saul that he has taken away are the things that he's going to take away when he ascends the throne. Saul's ability to reign, Saul's ability to conduct war, and he's going to live and Saul's going to die. There's a lot of imagery that the Jews weave into this story based upon what they read further on down. I think it's kind of interesting. Whether or not it's true or not, it's interesting. But he goes way far away, and he calls to the army, and he calls to Abner, saying, "Will you not answer, Abner?" And Abner answered, "Who are you who calls the king?" David says, "Are you not a man? Who is like you in Israel? You're the general. You protect the king. And you are sleeping like a baby." That's not what men do. What happens? "Why then have you not kept your Lord, watch over your Lord?" His job, Abner's job, is while the king slept, Abner was to be awake. While the king was safely tucked in his bed, Abner was to be his eyes and ears to defend the camp and ensure that no one got in. But yet Abner failed at his job and fell asleep. So even while Saul went out to hunt David with 3,000 men, all 3,000 men were exposed and could have been slaughtered by David's 600, and no one would have known until all the crying is over. You have failed at your job, Abner, and because you have failed at your job, check this out. For one of the people came to destroy the king, your Lord. This thing that you have done is not good. As the Lord lives, you deserve death, because you have not kept watch over your Lord, the Lord's anointed. By the way, Abner does die. Joab kills him. Joab and Abishai kill him. It happens in 2 Samuel chapter 3. Abner does die. Saul recognizes the voice and he says, "Is this your voice, my son David?" Seriously. Who are you hunting? Who's calling out to you? Who has your spear and your jug of water? Let's look down, verse 18. And he said, "Why does my Lord pursue after his servant? What have I done? What's my crime? Is there evil in my hands? Have I done something to offend you? Have I done something to harm you? Has David done anything to Saul that warrants death?" No. David has been one of his most trusted servants. David has been one of his most trusted men in his camp. David has been one of his best generals. And at every time David had a chance to engage Saul, he has opted to allow the Lord to take the position of defender and executor of justice, not David or his men. If it's the Lord who stirred you up against me, may I offer or make an accepting offer. But if it is men, may they be cursed to the Lord. Why? They've driven me out this day that I should not share in the heritage of the Lord, saying, "Go serve other gods." Where did David go immediately when he left Nob to seek shelter? To the Philistines. Where does he go after this engagement? To the end. Same people. To the Philistines, who are pagans, who have pagan gods. Is David allowed to go and sacrifice a temple? His temple's not built, but go and sacrifice a tabernacle. No. If he goes, he'll be killed. Is David allowed to go and experience any access to his family? No. If he goes, he'll be killed. Saul has essentially cut him off from the land of Israel. And even in that, David's response is, hey, if I have offended you, if I have made an offense, notice what he's trying to do the whole time. He is seeking to bring resolution to this situation instead of bringing destruction out of the situation. Allow me to make a sacrifice and make the situation right. But if men are stirring you up, may they be accursed from God. Both Saul and David have men on both sides that are stirring the pot. Who is stirring Saul's pot? They gave it away when we read the very first part of the chapter, the men of Ziph. This is the second time they have caused this controversy, and the second time they have led to this showdown, and this is the second time Saul has been bested. Saul has lost at counting coup. David has taken his robe, or a portion of it, and his spear, and his water pot. Have you ever heard of the statement, vengeance is mine, but getting even is up to me? I used to work in a hardware store with a guy that claimed that he was a preacher that would say that. And I would look at my Bible, and I'd look at him and go, was it hesitations? Vengeance is mine, but getting even, or vengeance is the Lord, but getting even is up to me. And we actually kind of live by that principle in a lot of things. We get slighted, something happens, it doesn't go our way, something happens where we get offended, something happens where we get mad, and we lash out or we seek to find our own way. And the problem is David, being justified in all these actions, is seeking resolution. If I've offended you, if I've done something to wrong you, if I've done something to hurt you, let me sacrifice. Not, you keep this up, buddy. You're going to need 30,000 because the Lord put you asleep and my 600 men are going to come in and we're just going to, when the cutting is done, we'll see who's on top. He turns it all over to the Lord. Imagine what a peaceful life we would live if we would turn over the getting even with people to the Lord and let it go. And the counterpart is let it go. Not just turn it over to the Lord and go, when? I saw them at Walmart yesterday. I thought we had this conversation. I wanted them to die in a burning car crash. You're not living up to the plan. Tell him I'm not doing his job as you. Don't make me do this. Secretly, we do that, right? Or is that just me? Don't lie. Don't lie. I know y'all.
We are going to pray for you.
Uh-huh. I don't really know where to go from there. Let's flip over verse 21. Then Saul says, I have sinned. Return my son David, for I will no more do you harm. Because my life is precious in your eyes this day. Behold, I have acted foolishly and have made a great mistake. Yes, you did. And David answered and said, Here is the spear, O king. Let one of your young men come and take it. The Lord rewards every man for his righteousness and his faithfulness. The Lord gave you into my hand today. But I would not put out my hand against the Lord's anointed. Behold, as your life is precious this day in my sight, so may my life be precious in the sight of the Lord, and may he deliver me out of all tribulation. Why does David not kill Saul? Is it because he doesn't have a right to kill Saul? Or is it because he's concerned about his relationship with God? David doesn't kill Saul because he's more concerned about his relationship with the Lord than Saul is about his relationship with David. And Saul said to David, bless you, my son. David, you will do many things and will succeed in them. So David went his way and Saul returned to his place. David had the right. David admits it. God put you into my hands. I won't touch the Lord's anointed. I won't touch someone and have innocent blood on my hand. Who's going to go kill, I get his name, starts with an N. Nabal. Stop from doing it. Why? Because he was going to have innocent blood on his hands. It's easy at times we see things that line up perfectly for us to make the opportunity to make the other person pay. And David's response actually should be more of our response. Should be more of my response. Because I don't do it all the time. I wished I did. Is I'm not doing it. I'll let the Lord handle it if that's what needs to happen. And I am going to stay out of this. I'm going to let the Lord be the Lord. And if there is an offense, if there's something that needs to happen, let him exact justice. I'm going to focus on me and what I need to take care of. You see the difference between the two men, don't you? Saul gets offended and he tries to kill people left and right. Can't do it. David gets offended. David seeks resolution and restoration. Questions? I closed my Bible, but I can easily open it back up again. Questions? As I drink my water. No? Light? Nothing? Not even like, what movie did you see this week? I didn't see anything this week. Sorry.
Do you hear any loud screaming from his house?
No, she's far enough away. Yeah. I wait till she goes to sleep anyway. Let's close out with a word of prayer then. Our gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day, and we thank you for the opportunity to come before you. Heavenly Father, for the example David sets. I wished at times that I could behave as David did over slights or insults or people trying to do me harm. And yet David sets a great example for us to follow. A man justified in taking another life clearly, yet puts his relationship with you at such a high premium that he doesn't act upon it. He turns it over to you. Imagine the struggles in the world that could be resolved if people would turn those things over to you and allow you to seek justice if it's necessary or resolution if it's there. We ask for your blessing upon us as we leave here and that you'll watch over us as we go out into a world that's hurting and dying and going to hell. And we take light in the darkness and hope to a hurting world. We ask for these things in your name we pray. Amen. All right. Let's circle up around.